Welcome everybody to 52 Living Ideas. Tonight is Dao De Jing. It is number 81, the final verse. So this will be the last time I say type exclamation point in the chat to read your favorite version of verse 81. Okay. Evanik Shrikant.
Okay, so this is from the John R. Mabry, God as Nature Sees God translation, a Christian reading of Dao De Jing, chapter 81. True words are not beautiful. Beautiful words are not true. Good people do not argue. Argumentative people are not good. The wise are not necessarily well educated. The well educated are not necessarily wise. The sage does not hoard things. The more she does for others, the more she finds she has. The more she gives to others, the more she finds she gains. Heaven's way is to nourish, not to harm. The sage's way is to work, yet not compete.
Thank you, Evanik. Next up, we have Shrikant, followed by Margarita.
Thank you, Joe. I'm going to read Ursula Le Guin's translation. My title for it is More You Give, More You Have. Her title is Telling It True. True words aren't charming. Charming words aren't true. Good people aren't contentious. Contentious people aren't good. People who know aren't learned. Learned people don't know. Wise souls don't hoard. The more they do for others, the more they have. The more they give, the richer they are. The way of heaven profits without destroying. Doing without outdoing is the way of the wise. The next little country might be so close, the people could hear cocks crowing and the dogs barking there. But they would get old and die without ever having been there.
Thank you, Shrikant. That was my favorite version as well. So next up, we have Margarita. It's going to be wonderful to hear you read it in Bahasa one last time.
Yes, I'm sure it won't be the last time you hear me in Bahasa. There will be analek. So this is Bahasa Indonesia. Ucapan yang jujur sesuai dengan Dao tidak menarik. Ucapan yang jujur tidak menarik. Kata-kata yang menarik tidak jujur. Orang yang luhur budinya tidak berdebat. Orang yang berdebat tidak luhur budinya. Orang yang memahami tidak belajar. Orang yang belajar tidak memahami. Orang bijak tidak menimbun. Semakin banyak memberi, semakin bertambah miliknya. Jalan langit memberkati tanpa merusak. Melakukan tidak berlebihan adalah jalan yang bijak. Negara tetangga kecil di sebelah sangatlah dekat, sehingga orang bisa mendengar ayam berkokok dan anjing menggonggong di sana. Tetapi hingga tua dan mati tanpa pergi ke sana. Thank you.
Thank you, Margarita. Next up, we have Greg, followed by Brian.
Hi, this is the Red Pine version.
Okay.
True words aren't beautiful. Beautiful words aren't true. The good aren't eloquent. The eloquent aren't good. The wise aren't learned. The learned aren't wise. Sages accumulate nothing, but the more they do for others, the greater their existence. The more they give to others, the greater their abundance. The way of heaven is to help without harming. The way of the sage is to act without struggling.
Thank you very much, Greg. Next up, we have Brian, followed by Laura.
Okay, I go again with Yasuhiko Kimura. Truthful words are not always beautiful. Beautiful words are not always truthful. Virtuous people do not argue at all. Non-virtuous people argue incessantly. Those who know are not full of information. Those who are full of information do not know. The sage does not hoard material goods. The more he lives entirely for others, the richer his life becomes. The more he gives to others, the more abundant his life becomes. The way of heaven is to benefit all, but to harm none. The way of the sage is to work for all, but to contend with none. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for reading the Yasuhiko version. That is, I think, my favorite version of all the translations as we've gone through this. So next up we have Laura, followed by David.
Okay. Hey, Joe, you have everything set up for the party tonight?
Yeah, it's
Okay, I
also,
just want to make sure of the detail. Yeah,
yes.
this is an important event. Okay, I'm going to do the dire of her. Okay. True words are not beautiful. Beautiful words are not true. Good men do not argue. Those who argue are not good. Those who have virtue do not look for faults. Those who look for faults have no virtue. Sages do not accumulate anything, but give everything to others. Having more, the more they give. Heaven does good to all, doing no evil to anyone. The sage imitates it, acting for the good of all and opposing himself to no one.
Thank you, Laura. Next up we have David.
Yeah, thanks. Just want to make sure. Did anybody read the thing in English already? Or-
No, in
Okay.
fact, that was the other one I was going to read, but go right ahead. So
Thanks. Truthful words are not beautiful. Beautiful words are not truthful. Good men do not argue. Those who argue are not good. Those who know are not learned. The learned do not know. The sage never tries to store things up. The more he does for others, the more he has. The more he gives to others, the greater his abundance. The Tao of heaven is pointed, but does not harm. The Tao of the sage is work without effort.
thank you very much, David. I will read, since I don't see Katie here. We're missing Katie and Brian, but that's okay. Since Katie's not here, I will read the Stephen Mitchell version. True words aren't eloquent. Eloquent words aren't true. Wise men don't need to prove their point. Men who need to prove their point aren't wise. The master has no possessions. The more he does for others, the happier he is. The more he gives to others, the wealthier he is. The Tao nourishes by not forcing. By not dominating, the master leads. With that, I will go ahead and hand it over to Jason for his translation.
Okay, let me. Okay, the title is Not Holding. Trustworthy words are not beautiful. Beautiful words are not trustworthy. Good people are not eloquent. Eloquent people are not good. The wise are not erudite. The erudites are not wise. The sage doesn't hold. The more he works for others, the more he possesses. The more he gives to others, the more he earns. The Tao of heaven is to benefit, not to harm. The Tao of the sage is to act for others, not to vie with others. So this chapter, if it serves the ending of the entire Dao De Jing, that means it ends with not to vie with others, not compete with others. Amang and I decide the best words probably to use vie for the competing. Okay, so that's the first thing I like to say. Or if it serve as the finish of the third chapter, that means how we behave based on Dao also end with not vying, okay, not compete with others. That's first thing I like to say. Second thing, I find out the translation because I do it word to word translation. Most translation on the first sentence do it like true words are not beautiful, or the truthful words are not beautiful. So basically the word 信 here, the very first word means trustworthy. It means it's reliable words. So, but I think true words also close to the meaning of the original, because I'm not sure if any other words in Chinese can say what is true words. So true words probably also means trustworthy words. So the translation use true words, I think is also great. One thing I like to argue is the third one. Okay, so-called the wise are not erudite, and the erudite are not wise, because the word in this chapter uses this word called 博. Okay, that means you know a lot of things, and most of translation would like to like the wise are not learned or not educated or not know. Okay, the people who know, the people who learn, the people who educated are not wise. I kind of disagree. I think we should use the original word called erudite. So it's also related to here, this sentence. The sage doesn't hold, okay? Because when we talk about holding, all right, we hold a lot of stuff, but erudite also means you hold a lot of knowledge. So you try to collect all the knowledge, stuff all your knowledge in your mind, and they make you not wise. I think that's why I think the word here use Chinese word 博 means learning a lot. Okay, you know everything, but in another point of view is you are holding knowledge. So I think that's the concept here. Okay, and another thing I like to talk about here, talk about the Tao of heaven and the Tao of sage. Okay, so I think it's equal. I just refer to chapter 77. Okay, here you talk about the Tao of heaven and the Tao of people, right? So in chapter 77, talking about the Tao of heaven is decrease the excess and the fear, the deficiency. But the Tao of people decreases the deficiency and the supplies to the excess, right? So, and this one is take a different view compared to Tao of heaven and the Tao of sage. So actually it ends with this chapter, this section, and the entire Dao De Jing. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Aman, would you like to comment?
I have enjoyed this. I think that was a masterstroke of a translation. The two things I actually want to point out about chapter 81, the very opening, trustworthy words are not beautiful, beautiful words are not trustworthy, almost feels like a recapitulation of the opening chapter of the Dao De Jing that, you know, Dao Ke Dao Fei Cheng Dao, Ning Keng Ning Fei Cheng Ning. You can't talk about it. You can't give it words. because the truth is beyond encapsulating in words. And so here we see once again this idea that trustworthy words, not the truth with a capital T, but words that you can put your faith in, are not necessarily going to appear as beautiful, feel good nuggets. It feels like it says something very similar, but both of them get at, don't trust what you want to believe. Listen closely, look more closely, scrutinize more closely, because whether you want it to be so or not, if you can put your faith in it, you'll know it. You will actually have just a gobsmacked sort of moment of aha-ism. And that is not necessarily the same as it being beautiful or being easily imparted. The other thing I wanted to point out was Jason's choice of translating this word, I'm throwing in the chat, bian, as eloquent, which I thought was a great translation of that term. You'll see very often where it's translated as argue or debate, but I do think that Jason's translation goes back to sort of a older meaning of this as persuasive speech that sways the mind, which is, I think eloquent is an excellent way of interpreting that or translating that. Adding those parentheticals of rhetorically eloquent, I think captures how the Western mind would understand it better than as we hear the word eloquent and we think, well, that's a good thing. Why wouldn't someone want to be eloquent? But then you think back to your Plato, your Socrates,
Right.
and your sophists who were
Right.
skilled debaters, but not necessarily skilled at imparting truth. And then you get a reiteration of this idea that just because it sounds good doesn't mean that it's trustworthy language. Whether you read chapter 81 as the end of the chapter on De and the preamble to what would be 1 through 30 or 1 through 31, or if you read it as the completion of the Dao De Jing, it really serves well to put a bookend around an idea of better behavior, that the trustworthy don't vie. They're not in competition. Those that are trustworthy because you can see that they're trustworthy. Their actions show you they are trustworthy because they continue to give, not because they continue to try and take or receive or accrete their own possessions or knowledge. Yeah, that's probably about all I'll say about that for now.
Well, you absolutely took the only points that I really had, and so I was going to go into some of the sophistry aspects of this and how words are sometimes used to win an argument eloquently, but not necessarily in search for truth. But there's actually quite a bit more we can converse with about this, as well as I also had something along the lines where the actions are more trustworthy than words. I really appreciate how you mentioned too how it bookends with the Tao. The true Tao can't be spoken, and this kind of ends it with the idea of what beautiful words or kind of being eloquent as we know it isn't necessarily it's not necessarily a good thing in this particular instance. So with that, I will open it up for comments as to what you took away from verse 81. I think we had Laura.
I like verse 81 because it felt it was like the first verse in many ways. And that the way spoken, that's what drew me to the Dao De Jing to begin with. I know that you said something about something that said to me at that point, we should say the circle of life, that the way that this is coming back in the sense of being the circle of life, the beginning to the end to the beginning, in the fact that it was written, not with the exact words, but, you know, with greater sense of things and subtlety. And I don't know, I think it's very beautiful. I think it's an incredible way to not end, but, you know, to begin again. When we go back to looking at the Tao, we can do it with a different, you know, different set of words or whatever. And I don't think eloquent words are anything more than soft coding words, making words pretty, but you can't really trust that because that could be a facade. So anyway, those were my thoughts about this last poem. I'm sorry to see it end.
No problem. And no problem, Boo. Thank you, Laura, for your comments. Welcome, Boo, and no problem being late. You're always welcome. Next up, we have Margarita.
Thank you. I like this verse. I think it's more about learning. I have a question and I have a comment. The comment is, this is also about learning, which I believe learning does not necessarily we will get wisdom. So this is a reminder for a person who learns so much, but you need to know how it can help people, like contribute. That's my question, because Jason put the scholarly, I don't remember the Chinese term, in the context of hoarding, which I think I see that in academic setting where people hoard their knowledge, but without putting that in a context, for example, to contribute to the societies, just like another material world, but in their mind. This is not gold, but yeah, it is hoarding. Is that the thing that Dao or Lao's against for? But what if a person would try to seek for knowledge, but try to put that as a contextual knowledge, wisdom, or contribute to the society, whether that's also something that not favorable for Dao, that's we just remain very simple, natural. Thank you.
Yeah, I like to answer this one. You know, basically, that's put the Confucianist constantly criticize Taoist is anti-knowledge, right? The negation of knowledge. Even they try to, we can claim both Confucianists and the Taoists want to achieve the same thing. But Confucianism, the most important thing is education, learning, so-called cultivate yourself, okay, practice. That's a Confucius view. And the Taoism point of view just opposite, okay, knowledge. You don't need the knowledge, okay, you make goes with your nature, okay, you just do keep everything as simple as possible. So Confucius' argument against this argument is you need to learn it. Yes, they have the people, okay, like Lao Tzu. You don't need to learn. You don't need to practice a lot. You just go your nature. But that's only for very few people. So-called the sage will do this way. So Lao Tzu can do this way, but not everybody. Most of the people need to learn, need to do everything. So that's the typical two different view, okay, on the same thing, okay. So I think that's the way I have to put it together. So, but as a learner, as a regular modern learner, I think that's also the personal experience is Taoism teaching give you a reflection, right? So like I try to learn all the knowledge. Okay, I study Western philosophy, study Chinese philosophy. I go to study Islamic philosophy. I try to learn a lot of things, but sometimes give me a reflection, say, wait a minute, does that mean to learn? Does that make sense to learn so much? Okay, and I still have the Hinduism philosophy I need to learn. So is that the right thing to do? Okay, so give you a break. Okay, so I think that serve a person very useful learning to help you take a break and understand, what's the right thing, what's the wrong thing. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Yeah, one of the lines in the J.H. McDonald version is, wise men are not scholars and scholars are not wise. So that kind of fits in line with what you were saying. Aman.
I just wanted to add to that. I think what Jason said was absolutely correct. But I also wanted to give a bit of historical context when it came to the idea of hoarding knowledge. We live in a knowledge sort of economy, if you want to call it that, where in order for your knowledge to be recognized and appreciated, there's that old adage, publish or perish. You have to disseminate it far and wide, get many people to encounter whatever your stroke of genius is. That wasn't the way that scholarship or knowledge or thinking was really conceived of or treated in ancient China. There was a real miserliness to scholars over their expertise. And this sort of tradition of, holding tight whatever was your precious gem of knowledge was maintained for centuries in China for a very long time. Much studying was done. The classics were expected to be studied by anyone, but if you had any sort of specialty of knowledge or any sort of additional expertise, especially in a practical sense, that was something you held very closely. You maybe took on one apprentice in your lifetime to carry the knowledge down with. And sort of the stereotype of this where you see, and you were raised like me on Kung Fu theater back in the 70s, where these different schools of martial arts had very secret knowledge and secret technique that were only passed down one at a time to one special person. That's the cliche sort of caricatured version of this knowledge economy that existed in ancient China. But it was very different. There was no sort of peer review going on or the expectation that you were to sort of publish. There's another way of reading Lao Tzu's indictment of that here against hoarding by basically saying, give it away. If you have it, give it away. Share it far and wide with more people. And in that way, it may have been very ahead of its time, very prescient, as opposed in seeing the value of more eyes, more thought, more people encountering an idea actually increases its value. The more the sage gives away, the more they have for themselves. That could be another way of understanding that.
Thank you, Aman. And then next up, we actually have Kevin.
Yeah, first, Jason, would you bring your share back? I'm going to use some keyword line by line, before I move to, next. Okay, the first, you can highlight the first Xing, right? That's Xing. Another second is the first trustful, second Mei, a word. What's beautiful? Like we consider, for example, if I'm a person or individual, okay, I consider my trustful person, I'm beautiful, I'm got a wealthy person, I'm high educated, That's back to the conclusion. That's back to the Jason great topic, not holding. You can that's if you think that is static value, that's I'm gonna hold that. That's why the sage they don't hold that. Don't hold hold those words. It's not eternal. The second line, sad is good. Good he translated good people, kind. How do you value kind? And kind, and the second word beer. Basically, it's I also like that eloquent. Use Socrates or Weston, we like that. Sometimes one word we see truth, maybe you discuss the truth becomes more clear, much clearer. If we keep argue, debate. This is one aspect. However, it's kind of people don't value the argument, or especially not eloquent. The wisdom is wisdom. If you keep argue, maybe it looks beautiful, could be not kind. The third line, 知者, 知, know knowledge. You see, 知. And another word is third line is 博. We use one doctor, we call it 博士. Basically, doctor degree kind. So, 知者, what's the knowledge? Normally we know specific. That's we 52 living idea. We talk about what's a specialization and generalization. 知者, normally we know very specific knowledge. How about the integration about the knowledge itself? Move to a second paragraph. Yeah, that's Jason used the 以 so if you give more, the more you process. For example, I would say Jason might have this kind of feeling. Even Joseph, you talk more, share with others, you teaching especially. Whoever have teaching experience, you learn more or students learn more. I do college, some private school. I feel I learn more than the students because I need to prepare, share, and need to know in student how to get it, what I'm share my mind to them. So that's a very interesting point. And the last one, 贴之道. The last two are very important. I'm going to share maybe if next after people talk. 贴之道，利而不害，圣人之道，为而不争. Last four, 为而不争. We talk about non-effort, 无为. Here's we value we, but not to vie with them. We do something, but not compete. Why are we fighting for the champion? Why are you fighting something? Value one, number one, not value others. So that's you can look at the 贴之道, that's Dao of sky. I use sky, I use original. That's between the, by the way, sky between the our Western or American culture to the Chinese culture here. How do we value heaven and sky? We value sky. For here, we English word sky, it's a sky. It's no like a metaphysical meaning go to further. But here it's yeah, the sky is Dao of sky. It's all benefit, not harm. Look up at the nature, how it work, water, soil, and heaven, the sea, the ocean. Yes, by the way, I'm going to share maybe later. So my question may pose for Aman, and you see that the old days, they don't have a punctuation. For example, 道可道, 非曹道. The first Dao can be spoken. It's not eternal Dao. Also, I would put it this way. I put a three part. Dao can be spoke. Dao cannot be spoke. All eternal Dao. It's all in our mind. Socrates great. Lao Tzu not too bad too. Thank you.
One of those things that you said that was very interesting is something that Aman also brought up. This idea of not competing with one another in this last line. And I've just been reading quite a bit about this in particular. how more individualistic societies, or even are tend to be a lot more competitive with one another in general. And there are pluses and minuses with that. But one thing that it doesn't allow for is for tranquility or peace of mind, because you're always thinking about what the other person's doing. And but it does lead to certain interesting things like innovation, that people are competing with ideas. So it's interesting. I was just found it interesting that both of you had brought up that aspect of it. How essentially the Tao of the Sage is to act for others, not vie with them. So that was in Jason's translation. But next up we have David. Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Again, we discussed before that we're not entirely certain about the order of this and the two big sections, and even the order of these individual verses. But we mentioned a number of times that this is, Jason, that this is likely a sort of instruction to a prince. So I was thinking about it more from that standpoint of, this is sort of the capstone to a presentation to a prince of royal court, or how to that would be interpreted. It definitely is, as everybody said, very impactful and meaningful to us individually. We can all learn from it. But from a prince, it's sort of things are like, don't be swayed by erudite or words from your advisors. Don't to sort of be careful about how you're interpreting, how you're listening to the advisors around you. And I'm even wondering if the end, as we're saying so much about the sage, and if this is sort of intended for the prince to aspire to that. If this is even saying where there's, especially at this period of time, I assume that the king held not just so much power, but so much wealth and other things, is to sort of share that, as we were saying, with the kingdom, with your people, to be generous with others. That part of that is this prince, whatever, wants to aspire to be a great sage, or to be to travel in the way, that this prince should be generous and in with all things, with all the people in the kingdom. So just sort of trying to imagine this from that standpoint of that audience of a prince, as opposed to us plebes here, of how again, what the Dao De Jing is trying, and the people presenting this to a prince would have tried to express, or hoping to get across, or hoping that the prince would have learned from this entire arc.
Thank you, David. One of the things that I found to be truth is to have, when you have people around you that are always agreeing or always praising you or some sort, that is the time to be a little bit aware, of what's maybe that, what's going on. And it's something that the truth is sometimes it's very painful. And, I have some friends that constantly remind me of the truth. But I also know that they're being honest in their words, even though they're being somewhat, well, I wouldn't say they're eloquent in their way they're saying it. But anyway, that is another takeaway that I had from this one. But Aman, would you like to comment? Go ahead.
I wanted to respond to David's question a little bit, with at least an impression I have of this, which is the overarching goal here is to embed a heuristic in the mind of the young princeling, the young leader. And what I mean by that is a shortcut in evaluation and thinking, because the inclination would be, oh, I'm being flattered, or oh, this person is promising me knowledge that, you know, is secret, and they'll you know, they want me to pay them this much, but then I'll have the keys to the kingdom. And what his parting shot here isn't just about heeding Lao Tzu's advice. It's about how to evaluate advice that you will receive going forward forever. Don't just assume because it looks shiny and new or secretive and, you know, esoteric, that these somehow make it more precious. More often than not, you'll see the person who's trustworthy because they're giving it away to everyone. Nobody is having to necessarily ask. They're just out there trying to help. So yeah, the short answer, as short as I could make it, would be, I think Lao Tzu's parting shot is, when I'm gone, you got to do this for yourself, because up until now, I'd been here to do this for you, but now you got to do your own vetting. And if you got people vying with one another, don't put too much trust in either one of them. They're working towards their own agenda.
Thank you, Aman. Next up, we have Boo, followed by Jason, then Greg.
Hey there. Sorry I'm late. I
no need.
was attending a Nietzsche talk, and I accidentally got confused with the person who was hacking and trolling. So I set aside a few hours of my time, and I had to find another meetup because so I've read one other translation of the Tao, and besides the one I have right here, which is Stephen Mitchell's. So most of the first two parts of 81 are just kind of differently worded, but the very last lines, he says, the Tao nourishes by not forcing, by not dominating, the master leads. And I guess just in the context of the lines that precede it, it makes me think that the kind of message, possibly, it's the way I'd word it is, like, you know how you can't lead a horse to water, or I mean, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't necessarily get it to drink. I guess I hear the kind of meta message in it that it's not about trying to teach someone else to drink the water, but if you drink it yourself, you know, if you lead by example, that's the best way to teach others, not necessarily through eloquent words or things like that. So I guess I just hear the leading by example as a, what wisdom looks like, the tranquility looks like when one imbibes it oneself, is the best form of teaching or of spreading the wisdom and not hoarding it for yourself. But I may be wrong, and I'd love to hear any other interpretations of that, but I wonder if that was something anyone else agrees with. Thank you.
No, I think it's consistent with the rest of the Tao. Verse 17 of the, I believe the same Stephen Mitchell version is, the master doesn't talk, he acts. When his work is done, the people say, amazing, we did it all by ourselves. In other words, he leads by example. And he's not necessarily forcing people to, and he's also allowing them to arrive at their accomplishments, knowing that, you know, they were the ones that did it, not he or she. And I think that is the mark of true leadership. Marcus Aurelius also has a quote it escapes me at the moment, that stop speaking like a good man, but act like one. And it's kind of falls along the same lines. I'll get the exact quote as soon as we let Jason go next.
Oh yeah. I realized during this meetup, I realized one thing. It's interesting. Let me share the screen. Okay, so I start to realize that in this chapter, we talk about the trustworthy words is not beautiful. Okay, that means the beautiful words is holding a lot of words, right? If you speak beautiful, you have a lot of words on that. Then he talk about good people are not adequate. Adequate people, he holding, okay, he's holding a lot of reason. Okay, he talk about many reasons. And the wise people are not erudite. That means unwise people. They hold a lot of knowledge. So basics, it leads to the sage doesn't hold, right? It like the not beautiful words. The sage doesn't hold a lot of words, doesn't hold a lot of reason, doesn't hold a lot of knowledge. Okay, so I think that's make every words make sense, right? A lot of words, a lot of reason, a lot of knowledge. That's the holding he's talking about. So I think that's interesting to share.
Interesting indeed. Next up, we have Greg.
I wanted to talk about the word erudite.
Sure.
I actually prefer the word learned. The thing I don't, I have 2 points actually. A learned person is can have a lot of information, knowledge that's in him drummed out by the learning. For instance, if you go to a massage therapist who's gone through the massage school, he's not necessarily as good as somebody who's a natural person, and a natural person who's a good massager, who's gone through the massage school, will have all that drummed out of him. That's part of my the reason I like the word learned, because it is specifically against that thing. And they talk about, there's an anecdote which I'd like to recite, which is when you first get your BS, we all know what that means, right? And then you get your MS, and that's more of the same. And then you get your PhD, which is just piled higher and deeper. And that is what learning is. So that's probably all for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. So next up we have Kevin, followed by Margarita.
Thank you, Joe. I feel like from truth, it's like onion. I'm going to two part use this metaphorical. Onion, you need to peel different layer, find the truth. The different angle you look at have to find a different truth. That's one side. Onion itself also, it's like ourselves. We peel, it's hard. We peel one layer at a time, we find something ourselves, it's pain. And sometimes you weep. Recently, I do a little bit of research about the empire, how they slowly they move away from the it's one is from pandemic, from currently pandemic. If from self-freedom, yes, I don't need a mask, I don't need vaccine, I don't, yeah, then we have to value that. For vaccine itself, it's not, it's have a side effect, it got a bunch of reasons, right? Normally we need 10-year approval that works. So that's something we need a collective kind of common good, common values. This is from pandemic. That's affect something, one personal, community, country. This continuation, we will see, in the next month or few years. And the second one is about hatred and violent and war self. So this, if you keep a split, okay, arguing and even fighting, I'm not agree with you. That's my piece of cake. I want a whole cake. So you got none. So eventually you're going to come fighting together. This is not why. That's like why and competition, right? So also the another economic side. If you're going overspending, especially overspending for the war, you borrow money for the war, it's going to happen something. A last point about Americanization, I see in the chat, is as America, you see, even overseas from McDonald's and Coca-Cola and Holy Wing area, basically it's so great culture and shared. This American South, we only see ourselves. We are the best. We don't see other, like other culture, other community, other country. What can you learn from them? They are poor. They're, that's kind of self-arrogant, feeling. I maybe overestimate that. I hope that you guys can share from that angle. Thank you.
Jason, did you just unmute or no?
Oh, no, no, no.
Okay, all right. So Margaret, thank you for those comments, Kevin. Margarita.
Yeah. I have a question.
Sure.
Actually, I just noticed that in several translations, the last part, there's a bit difference to Jason's, and also from Ursula Le Guin is doing without outdoing is the way of the wise. So as if this is more resonate to Wu Wei.
Yes.
And my question is, here in this chapter, there are 2 lines that say something about the sage act for others. The sage should work for others. So what is this? What kind of working for others that Dao is expecting these people who read this? Because previously we read more about the wisdom of not doing, Wu Wei. So if we act or do things for others, in what way that is still balanced in Wu Wei? Yeah, thank you.
That's an excellent question. Jason or Amon,
Yeah,
comment.
Thank you, Margarita. Let me share the screen. I think I made a subtle mistake, and you probably point out. Okay, this line you are talking about, 圣人之道，为而不争. I translate as the Dao of the sage is to act for others, not to vie with them. Okay, there's no others in Chinese. Okay, there's no others. I just write it for others because it sounds better in English. And I think you catch up this mistake, I should call mistake, because in English, if you translate the Dao of the sage is to act, not to vie. That's probably another better way to translate, because if you say act for others, doesn't sound very Taoist, sounds more Confucianism than Taoism. So thank you very much to point out this, I should say, a mistake on that. So yeah, that's that.
No, I don't think that's a mistake. Even in Bahasa Indonesia, it's also work for others.
Yeah, but
and help others. That's why.
Yeah, because we easily, when we say act, we have the object, right? We have the target, we have the direction. But in Taoism, kind of like remove this kind of direction. So we just act. Actually, the act is non-action, put this way. So I think that's I think it would be better, if to remove for other and vie with others. So probably
or put it in parentheses.
Yeah, probably that would be another way to do it. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, since I'm here, then I will like to comment on what Greg talking about the learning. Okay, the wise are not learned. I fully understand. The words translate as I use like the wise are not learned and the learned are not wise. Sounds very Taoism idea, but unfortunately, the words here I'm looking at, this one is bo. It doesn't mean learning. It means a lot, means wide, full of knowledge. So I just have to honor the original Chinese. And I think the put in the context also makes sense because if we assume here the key is the sage doesn't hold, doesn't accumulate. So bo, erudite, means accumulate knowledge. And the bian you can consider as accumulate reason. Mei, beautiful, can be considered beautiful words, can consider as accumulate another word. So they make the whole subject make sense. Yeah, that's the reason I will use erudite for this word. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jason. So next up I have, actually you were the next one up. So next up I have Madeline.
Yes, on that last sentence, can you put that up again, Jason?
Yeah.
Yeah. What if that last sentence were just something like the Tao of the sage is to do, not to vie?
Yeah. Way puts in. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
But could you answer, I don't know if you covered this really, forgive me if you already had, about the idea of Wu Wei that Margarita had brought up.
Yeah, Margarita is, oh, hold on, sorry.
I think that's kind of what's been floating around with this idea of the word to act for others versus to act versus to do. That whole notion of action in that last sentence is not Yahweh, not intentional action. It is simply to act spontaneously, naturally. It could be understood more like Wu Wei, but it really is a difference without a distinction there. If it is natural action, then whether you call it Yahweh or Wu Wei, it is simply, not to make a pun, but a way.
If I may ask, I mean, there's two lines also in the second paragraph. The more he works for others, the more he possesses. Is it
Right.
related with kindness?
I agree with Margarita's point. You know, if you put the act or do for others, it's really misleading. I think, you know. So so whatever you change to, the sage is to do, not to vie, or to act, not to vie. I think we should not put the act for others on that. And the original Chinese doesn't say do things or wait for others. Just say wait, that's it. So
Thank you, Madeline.
Yeah, I want to thank everyone who's here tonight and the other people who participated who aren't here tonight. And especially Jason and Aman and Joe and Shrikant for putting this whole thing together and keeping it going. I've had my translation of the book the Jia Fu Feng and Jane English. I've had it since the 1970s. And I've been dipping into it and reading it on and off and getting things out of it, but nothing like what I've gotten out of coming to this group week after week, hearing the translations, hearing the discussions, participating, sometimes maybe over enthusiastically, getting all my questions answered about the exact meanings of the words, and hearing how other people think about it as well. I remember after the very first chapter that we did, when I looked at the chapter again, it felt very crowded. It was as if I could see people's faces and hear people's voices in this kind of cluttered overlay on this page that had always somehow been mine alone. And it was a very different experience to go through it as a group. And somehow by like the 8th or 10th session, I was starting to really, really, really appreciate that and internalize everything that people said and have it add to my understanding and really enrich it. So thank you all.
Thank you for sharing that. And I would actually, if people feel free to continue on verse 81, and if anybody has any other comments, but it would really be good to hear what everybody, just at least one thing that you're taking from the Tao. And yes, I too want to extend a great, a big thank you to both Jason and Aman. I understand how precious your time is, and I appreciate the people that showed up every week. I want to also thank Shrikant for the opportunity to be able to go through this. One of the things that I recognized during this process is just how difficult it is to translate text. How challenging it is to take words that meant something at a particular moment in time, and then at some point you're trying your best to come up with the best word that captures both what happened, what the author intended, and what we mean by it today. And reconciling those phrases are so challenging. The other thing that I've also noticed is by reading multiple translations is that you see across them the poetic the liberties that they've taken with their translations, and how each author has put their own impression on what they thought the Tao was on their translation. And it's been to hear everybody read their different translations, and then to have Jason stay true to the text itself. It really has been a very unique experience that I'm eternally grateful for. And words can't express how I feel. So I'll just say the Tao is correct in that sense. With that, again, please feel free to continue to comment on 81, because I think 81 is very, very deep. And but at the same time, this is the last of the individual verses that we'll be covering. And so Evanique and David, you both have exclamation.
So just wanted to reiterate, thank you, Jason. Thank you, Aman. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Shrikant. Shrikant for bringing this together, Joe for hosting, and of course for Aman and for Jason for giving us not only translations, but cultural references and historical context and everything. But I also want to thank everyone here, because I think everyone made this fun. Like I remember, like not only like the insight that people put in, but the fun that we've had, the laughing that we've had, the joking around that we've had, that's how comfortable we've gotten with each other when we could just make like great hearted jokes and laugh. And, like, especially when we're trying to extend the Dao De Jing, we could laugh about that. And, we could be happy to see Amon's face. And so just things like that, like, it's just the fun that we've had in this meetup. And it makes me want to continue to study different texts with all of you guys. And, I think everyone's contribution has made this translation down to earth and easy, and made being here and being able to express your opinions about it and, your thoughts on the translation without feeling like you're going to be wrong, or, people are going to just argue with you just for the sake of argument. And that's an attribution to everybody here, being respectful and being great. Margarita, thank you for your Bahasa translations. I think they're beautiful. Thank you everyone that brought their own special translations to the floor, because I know they mean something special to you. And just want to say thank you to everyone who kind of gave of themselves to make this meetup great. So, oh, and the thing that I got out of it, the most part was Wu Wei. That was the hardest part for me to get, which is action without, action, but without inaction or something like that. It's kind of like, the way I interpret it is, doing the action and, trying not to control the outcome. So that's the biggest thing that I got. There's probably a lot more, but if I think of it later, I'll put another exclamation point. But thank you all.
Oh, thank you, Avanique, actually, because the translation that you brought was actually so unique each week. The Tao of Christ. I mean, it actually integrated some of the Western culture and Eastern culture ideas and melded them together. And in some ways, it was, I was always amazed that it was actually closer to Jason's translation sometimes in a few lines here and there than some of the other translations that I'd read. And Jason would also often, comment that he thought that your translations were interesting. So, and also your comments as well, and your willingness to always be here, and your willingness to step in and host when I was away, or actually I was sick. So that was also, that to keep this going, that is very much appreciated. So, and Wu Wei actually is a very difficult concept for a lot of people to get. In fact, it was brought up this weekend with Jason, and we were talking about it within, this is where actually legalism and Confucianism actually crosses over a little bit. And I'm still struggling with that, Jason, by the way. That I had to think about that all Monday, how that non-action, and yes, the idea of punishment and control and everything, but those are the only things you have to worry about, and how that related to Han Fei. That was actually really, that had me thinking for at least till yesterday. So, and it'll have me thinking longer. Next up, we have David, followed by Laura, followed by Margarita.
Yeah, thanks very much. And again, of course, reiterating Evanique's beautifully expressed comments of the to Shrikant, Joe, Jason, Aman, everybody for contributing so much to this wonderful environment here, and everybody's time and everybody's insights. And the one thing that also expanding on the comments made by Joe, you're talking about the translation, which I think also sort of echoes or is very relevant with all of the recent sort of theme that Shrikant has been leading with these series of meetups, especially now with the Gospel of John and the Bhagavad Gita, for people to understand that we're reading this in English. So the Gospel of John, these were the Bible, as were studying Genesis before. I mean, these were written in Hebrew, these were written in Aramaic, these were written in Greek. Some of these, translated from Hebrew to Greek, Septuagint, back and forth. And to understand, exactly as Joe said, how difficult it is to do these translations and to give us more perspective on these, whether it's the New King James Version or the New International Version or whatever is the translation that you're most familiar with or comfortable with, that there's so much interpretation infused by the translator into these translations, and to understand, and also, as you're saying, about the poetry, which I'm not an expert in Hebrew, but I've heard from many people just how much is missing from the poetry that exists in the original Hebrew of the Torah, the Old Testament, when we read it in English. So I think this, as in addition to the philosophy and understanding, as you're saying, from this amazing insights that we've heard from Jason and Aman and others, and Kevin and then the other people who are fluent in Chinese, to be able to give us these a deeper understanding of this entire culture. That also the meta instruction has been understanding, as Jody said, the difficulty of translation that hopefully we can apply or transfer over to our include as another layer of insight into these other texts, these ancient texts. Even just in Bhagavad Gita, from Sanskrit to Hindi or to any of the Marathi. In these languages, there's so much already lost, and those languages have so much are close together. So much more related, that it's just for us to use this skill, because it's been so unique here that there's so many different translations, and that they're, or at least they're so much more prevalent, or that we're familiar with, to be able to spend this time together. And not that we've gone through the hundreds or 200s that are available, but even just listening to the few people here, where we'll read through half a dozen or a dozen different translations, to understand how much subtlety there is involved, and to have some more appreciation for the translation of these other amazing texts, or any other classic Greek plays, anything else that's been translated, ancient Latin texts, even the Latin Vulgate Bible, which we think is sort of maybe the touchstone for this, which was translated from the Greek or Aramaic. So there's just so much that to appreciate how many iterations we've gone through for many of these classic texts that we're reading. So it's having this sort of stark example here with these multiple translations, and the great leadership of all of you to sort of parse through it, tease through it. I think has been another education on top of the philosophy itself. So thanks for that.
Absolutely, beautifully put. And it really truly has been such a unique experience. There's not really many situations that I could think of, and I was thinking about this, where I can envision where we would have somebody that would come in and actually do a translation of something short, and that we would be able to see so many other authors' perspectives on that same 3 paragraphs, 2 paragraphs. And it's such a rich experience, because then you start to see what the challenges that is. Jason would stay literal to the text. Most people that would come in and translate probably wouldn't even, they wouldn't be that. They would just put their own, what they felt like was trying to be communicated in that process. So it really has been a remarkable experience in this particular instance. It's really been just a gift, So next up, I have Laura.
Okay. Well, I too, again, have to thank everybody. Very smart group of people we have here. So I think, I appreciate everything I've gotten from everybody. It's a lot of learnedness from the group. I thank all the people who have put it together, Sherkant for great leadership in all of this, and Joe and our translators. I really appreciate translation directly from the text. I mean, I think that that's what you have to go by. I think I mentioned when I was in college, I took a Chaucer course and we translated from mid-English, and I made every effort to translate every word literally. And I was the only person who did that. And it came from me because of my background in math, you know, because when you write mathematical theorem, every word has to be exact. And so that was my skill set. And I was actually going to drop the class because it was like way out of my league and the person didn't know. And I wound up sort of being at the front of the class in terms of translation. And I was so glad I did it that way because I felt I really got a richer sense of the text. And so I really appreciate these translations. And whatever we do in the future, I hope that these two gentlemen are going to be a part of it. And we promise not to ask you to teach us any Chinese, all right? We're not going to make them teach, although maybe they should. What the Tao has done for me, I can't even begin to explain. I'm not a religious person, and yet I've always sort of longed for something that would give me some other essence of being, or somehow make me understand who I am a little bit more. And I think that this has absolutely done that for me. I leave this being wiser about myself and about who I am and what I've always strived for, or the being I've strived for. And I'm going to go back and read it. I don't know how many more dozen times to understand even more. But I definitely, I feel enriched in myself. And I wasn't expecting to feel that way. I mean, maybe I should have gone and done the other translations, but I think I will. If it comes around again, I'll take advantage of it. I didn't realize that, you know, I could have done the one about, anyway, that's not important. It's just been a remarkable experience. What a way to get away from COVID, you know, be in another world where there's life and hope and belief, and that's it. And we, you know, we march together. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, Laura, as well. And don't worry, I think Jason has agreed to actually do a translation in Sanskrit. Is that true, Jason? About how many?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was
Oh,
both the feminine and the masculine. So that, and we'll be covering that over a 162-week period. So that I don't know if that's on Shrikant's schedule.
No, he's going to translate Gospel of John from the original Greek into Sanskrit.
Okay. Oh, okay. That's it. Just to prove his mastery. Now, actually, you're showing, I guess you are showing off a little bit at this point, Jason, if you're doing that. You're not living in accordance with the Tao. You're sharing too much. No, I'm just joking, of course. So next up, forgive me if I lost my little place. We have Margaretha, I believe.
Okay. I also want to give my highest appreciation for all the people who have been facilitating this meetup. Thank you for Jason and Amon for the translation and the learning. And of course, Srikant and Joe for facilitating. And obviously all of us here that been sharing and giving such a nice learning environment, even though Dao doesn't really like us to know, to get more knowledge, but this is more about wisdom, maybe learning wisdom. So thank you so much. I'm honored that I can be a part of this learning group. Thank you so much. And I'm still learning, but because I really look up to my teachers here, just Jason and Amon. I also translated into Bahasa the works. So if you agree, and I would like to give my Bahasa Indonesia translation to this group, perhaps that could be one of the, I don't know, learning products, perhaps. In Bahasa Indonesia, actually, as I've mentioned several times to Jason, the translation is mostly mixed with Confucianism. So by having this group, I understand the wisdom of simplicity, how to understand words by words, how Jason tried very disciplined to translate that into word to word. And yeah, thank you so much for letting me know. Yeah, thank you.
So I want to understand this. You have translated, are you translating Dao De Jing into Bahasa?
Yeah, I use, yeah, because every week Jason and Amon.
So wait a minute,
Yeah.
so Bahasa that you've been reading is your own?
No, there is Bahasa translation, but sometimes I understand there's so much differences.
Can you read any of your version of Bahasa?
Okay.
You can read 81 if read 81, 81 or anyone, but
okay, just the simple. This is not perhaps the best, the correct one, but I try to like to follow Jason's. At least try to make it simple, not to put too many words.
Absolutely none of us can correct your Bahasa. So
Yeah. Okay, let me see the short one. Flawless, chapter 71. In Bahasa, I translate it as flawless in Dao, tidak cacat dalam Dao. Mengetahui tapi berpikir bahwa hal tersebut tidak bisa diketahui adalah kebijaksanaan. Tak mengetahui tapi berpikir bahwa hal tersebut bisa diketahui adalah kecacatan. Orang bijak tidak cacat karena ia mengenali kecacatannya sebagai cacat. Ia yang mengenali kecacatannya sebagai cacat, maka ia tidak cacat. So what I did was, in our meeting, I tried to read the one that is already shared in Indonesia. I can download it. Usually that come from in Indonesia, there's 3 temples. So that's Tao, Confucianism, and Buddhism, I think. Yeah, we call it 3 temples. They have most of the documents, including the Analects. So I downloaded from that website. So, but after listening to Jason and Amon, and I also read Ursula Le Guin and also Stefan Stenut, then I kind of get the understanding what is the most essential part. Then I try to translate that into Bahasa. That's what I do.
Beautiful, beautiful. I mean, because I think that's the only way to actually understand it.
Yeah.
Like actually try to put it in your own words. Like, what does this mean to you? Because that effort of translating, because I'm finding the same thing with Bhagavad Gita. Like whenever I'm looking at the Sanskrit, I know enough of it. I'm not particularly good. I know only like 95% of the words. That along with this one, when I try to put it in my own words, whether it is Dhaneshwar's commentary, which I'm trying to translate into English, that process of doing that allows you to understand what the text is, because you're working in 2 different languages. It's like holding the same thing with 2 different hands. You can't hold it, it's the Tao, but trying to hold it with both hands is better than holding it with 1 hand, because you get slightly different concepts, and you are able to tease them a little bit in order to figure out what it means. Thank you.
But I must admit it's not easy, because I think I follow what Jason's way, because he wants to be disciplined, not to put too much of our own ideas, but how to get the meaning from the words, the original. That's not easy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Margarita. So I think next up we have Jason, but I was going to let Rapali go first because she hasn't spoken yet. So Rapali.
Thank you, Joe. This meetup on the Tao, I would never have picked up a translation of the Tao had it not been for this meetup.
Yes.
So I learned something new and continue to learn that. So I want to thank you and Shrikant, Jason, and Aman for hosting these meetups and helping us understand, work through the verses. And between Bhagavad Gita and the Tao, I think I'm able to find my own center with these readings. So thank you for hosting the meetups.
Thank you, Rapali. I mean, your comments are always welcome and appreciated, and have been a great benefit to me personally, and I'm sure everybody else feels the same way in all the meetups, not just this meetup. So very much appreciated. Jason, you had an next
Yeah,
question.
okay, just share some experience. For example, I'm having the book here. Okay. Lao Zi, okay, that's the Chinese version of a translation. So because I'm in Taiwan at this moment, I went to bookstore. They have a whole section of the Dao De Jing. Okay, I think that's like, I think it's Taiwan probably totally westernized. So when I look at the Dao De Jing book section, it's just like Stephen Mitchell, all kinds of translation, interpretation. They only 81 chapter, they write so many words and full of the interpreter's idea. So, and there's many things. All the famous person, they write their own, and then blah, 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 a lot. And from my parents' home, I just clean up and I find this book, and everybody is reading the non-authentic interpretation on that. So it looks like I'm doing something very different than other people. I think the person who is serious about the original text, I'm talking about the person who knows Chinese well. The way they are doing is memorize it and understand every single word. Unfortunately, I don't have a good memory. So even I'm so familiar with the text, hard for me to recite. But that provide me a good advantage because I have to use logic to connect them together. Every time I read it, I have to rethink about the logic. So I think that's some advantage I have. And then I almost thinking about probably if I have a chance, I have to introduce the English version to the people in Taiwan. Let's put it this way, because most of the people who know, they all know English, but not very well. But the basic words should be able to understand. And with different language, you really give. I'm talking about the honor royal translation, not interpretation. It probably will provide a different angle to understand. So I think the translation itself, it helped, and I truly learned a lot from this group because everybody mentioned about something, talk about something that all make me think something I never thought before. So that really helped me a lot. And by doing this project, I also know not only in Shrikant's like Bhagavad Gita reading, I started to bring the same method to understand what's the distance between original Sanskrit and the English translation. So I'm not claiming I know the original meaning, but I know a method to be close, okay, to the original meaning and to figure out the historical background. And it also helped a lot when I read the Plato and the Socrates, Plato's dialogue or Aristotle's writing, because they all original from Greek. And I start to understand when I read the English version, which was translated from Latin and translated from Arab and translated from Greek, I start to understand how much difference, what's the distance between what I'm reading, let's say Plato, to the original Plato's thinking. So I think that helped me a lot, and I have be honest, I think I enjoy this kind of extra work. So I really appreciate on this group. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jason. So next up, we have, I want to say Aman. It's a little bit hard to
I realized if I put the explanation point in chat, I actually wait my turn. Whereas if I raise my hand, I jump the line. And since we've already killed chivalry once here, I figured I'd try and be patient. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for saving chivalry.
Shrikant, thank you for putting this together. Joe, thank you for hosting this. Margarita, thank you for giving me my first taste of Bahasa. I want to get to Indonesia now. Jason, I can't thank you enough. It's been a master class. And everyone, Kevin, Ebony, Greg, Madeline, Penny and Brian who aren't here, and Brian who is here, Elena, Katie, Marco, Mike, Laura, all of you have been absolutely just precious in this process. This was more what I wanted from my master's degree than what I got from my master's degree, which was a deep study of the Dao De Jing. And my thesis advisor was very polite, but very clear that this would take longer than he wanted to devote one simple 2-year course of master's classes to getting me proficient in. I got more here in my time doing this with you all than I did out of that whole program. I did get a lot, but nothing near the depth of study on the Dao De Jing. And this is a text, as I've mentioned before, I've studied for years, but it's very different sitting alone, reading text, and having that dialogue between yourself and the dead pages. The critical mass of minds that have come here to do the same thing has made this a much richer experience than I would have had probably in 2 years in dusty libraries with a old tweed jacket professor beating me over the head telling me I'm understanding it wrong, which, as motivational tools go, could be a little discouraging. Right. I am so glad that I have been able to take the time to carve out to make sure that I'm here weekly. I've been honored to be able to be part of Jason's translation and to, like Kevin said, you want to know something, you teach it. That's very true. And compiling these into text that is meant to be read by a broader audience was something that forced my hand to think more deeply, more concertedly, and really scrutinize my already conceived ideas of the Dao De Jing. And I've probably broadened my understanding of this text, not just having gone deeply, but also hearing others' ideas of it. And I want to thank you all for that. I will miss seeing you all on a weekly basis, though I will be around with luck and with, some kind HR department. I may land another class, and that would allow me to let go of one of my 3 jobs, and in which case I might show up more often, not in my robe, post-work shower and dead. So thank you all again. I am looking forward to seeing what develops next, but I will be around for the analytics, and I will be very happy to help on another translation, especially if Jason and Madeline and others are very serious about publishing these. Like I said, Publish and Perish is the world of academia, and so I'm happy to get any chance to do that.
I just want to say thank you, Aman. In so many sessions that you've had so many incredible insights. It has absolutely been an honor. And I remember one in particular where you did like this kind of free verse translation of like how to interpret this particular verse. I was about a CEO, and you're just reciting, if I were to bring this up into modern terms, you went through this whole explanation, using your own rhyme and verse, and it was beautifully done. And I was like, can you send me that? You're like, oh, I just made that up in my head and on the fly. I mean, it really, and the depth of your knowledge about the culture has really been just so helpful to me personally, to really kind of grasp I feel like it has been a master's class that we've gotten for free, and developed some really great relationships in the interim. So I can't say thank you enough. And again, I also echo, it's while you and Jason are by far the leaders of the and given quite a bit, it's everybody here that's contributed in so many different ways. So
if I have leadership authority, then drag Phil back for the analysts, because I miss him.
I will. You know what? I'm going to make that effort. I'm going to actually make that effort. I will drag Phil back. I saw that in the chat. So I will find Phil. And even if it's in his Seattle home, I will, just bring a camera there. And
he's in Seattle? Give me his address. I'll drag him in.
I believe he's in Seattle or Portland. So he's in one of the two. If he is Seattle, then I'll find him.
Hour or 2 hours. I can find him easy.
So we will find Phil, and we will drag him back. In a very Taoist way. Marco, did you want to say something as well, Greg?
I think he's in Tacoma. I'm in Seattle.
Okay. Oh, is he he's in okay. Marco.
No, just yeah, grateful to be able to sort of go through it like in such detail, and like getting so much out of it than if I would do it on my own. And also like a passage that I sort of remind myself every day is that when the mud settles, until the water is clear. Yeah, that's sort of something that I remind myself every day, and I'm still like working on, like aside from like Wu Wei, and but yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Marco. Thank you very much. Laura.
I wanted to tell you that when you get older, you start talking to yourself more. And if you get really good at it, you talk to yourself and you answer yourself. So the likelihood is you could even talk in 2 languages. You could, and you could do this whole thing all over again, and you'd have a blast. You would show her how intelligent you are, and you could speak. Trust me, it'll happen.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you. Next up, we have Elena.
All right. Good evening, everyone. And yeah, I'd like to say it has been a great collaboration on this project. And at the same time, it's a discussion. And I'd say everyone had given so much from their backgrounds and geography, wherever we are all in different places, and upbringing and language and culture. So it had been really a very unique experiment, I should say, and it worked. As what Aman was saying, is just you normally would not get that type of experience of having everyone in one place. So that has been truly just outstanding. And I've learned so much from others. And I really like that here you don't need to be, you could just be whoever you want to be, and be truly sincere if you want to be that. And it was a space for just quite a bit of discovery and not being pretentious and not being smart. You didn't need to be smart if you didn't want to be smart, and etc. So that had been just truly unique experience, and I'm grateful for everyone being here at all different times and just providing feedbacks, asking questions, and of course you, Joe, and Srikant for making it happen, and Aman, and of course everyone truly, like this is unbelievable. So thank you.
Thank you, Elena, and thank you. And it's always good to see you on Saturdays as well. So, and hopefully you'll be joining us for the Analects. So I know that I had someone else. I think Kevin, did I skip you?
I guess Madeline ahead of me.
Madeline, did you withdraw?
Well, I did, but now, I'm here and the mic is on, so.
Go have at it.
I think one of the things that really added the depth to this was that a lot of people who translate from Chinese to English for the Dao are translating from the modern Chinese. And Jason took the trouble to go back to the original Chinese. And he and Aman were working with that. So that means that the original, so in other words, it would be as if someone were translating, it's not quite comparable, but let's say that you had a translation of Shakespeare into modern English, and then someone were translating that into Chinese instead of working from the original Shakespeare. So that is somewhat the equivalent of what Jason and Aman did, which means that they got flavors of meaning from this and resonances that just might not even be in other translations because they went to the source.
It truly has been, I think, one of the most unique parts of this, as I've mentioned previously. Having your translation involved in the way you did it in particular, and us allowing us to compare it. It's been amazing. I know that I believe Greg, you unmuted before I go to Kevin. I know that you had unmuted at one point and were going to say something.
No, that was an accident. Sorry.
Okay, sure. Well, Kevin, I think you're the last
Yes.
exclamation point. You better
Yeah,
make
final
this
chapter.
very, very impactful. I mean, it better be very impactful. Like,
Yeah, then
be
finish.
life changing.
I know. Yeah, for me, it's a great journey. study Dao De Jing. Then, by the way, for each chapter, we can pick up one idiom or two idiom or something so common words in Chinese currently even. You see it, people know it. Maybe they don't have a original meaning like Jason pursued, but it's still practical. And for me, I have to thank you, Swanka. I don't know what's the first time he picked up this. And they will continue until get excited. And the one thing compared to other meetup in 52 Living Idea, the question for me, we just sort of a question. Is it practical? Those like we keep asking, question we didn't fully answer yet. What's the way, right? Non-effort. How it is practical? Can we do it without competition? So that's our next phase. If we can, it would be great. We can deeper, find a field. Let's make the debate for the good, not debate for the bad. And by the way, the Dao De Jing is written by Lao Tzu, but it's really for everyone. For me personally, it's reflection. What we practice, what we valued, it's kind of different what they written. Why 22 some years ago? It's something. It makes sense some ways for sure. Why all the world translation so many people valued? For me, for example, one metaphysical, we can from A to B, we can walk one way. From direct to A, from opposite side, you come from B to A. It's like a circle. It's something we missing. We valued one side, we miss another side. Why have to left or right? Can we work on both sides together? So yeah, then of course, thank you, Joe, and Jason and Aman, everyone bring unique something. Like a Madeline every time. Can you show something very pinpoint? Margarita, same thing. And something different aspect, and Avanique, that's a religion perspective read, though every time I hear it's very beautiful. Yeah. Everyone else, yeah, thank you so much. I cannot wait till we can talk again. Thank you.
Well, thank you, everyone. I'm going to do some brief announcements of some really interesting upcoming meetups that we have coming here to 52 Living Ideas. We have tomorrow is Comprehensive Learning, Comprehensivist Wednesdays. CJ, who we do this in conjunction with the Philadelphia Thinking Society, has covered, I don't know, maybe 19 or 20 topics over the past couple of years. Actually, it's been more than that. And he's going to summarize all these topics. And it's really been a fantastic, some of them are going to be Buckminster Fuller ideas, some of them will be other thinkers. But it's really going to be an interesting meetup. It's going to be succinct. He's going to try and capture, it's a very difficult test to capture all the ideas that he's talked about. So I highly encourage everybody to attend that. On Thursday, The Evolving Self by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, I always say his name, Csikszentmihalyi. I'll just say, all right, we'll call him MC. The Evolving Self is a series that we have going on with being led by Maritza and Joya. And that is, I'm trying to see what chapter they're on. It is chapter 6. But you can jump in anytime for that particular meetup. It really doesn't require you to have read the book. They do a very good job summarizing exactly what the book has captured in chapter 6. We have the Bhagavad Gita for chapter 10, verses 36 through 42, and that is Thursday. That is after The Evolving Self. Those those meetups have taken on a new level, especially with chapter 10. It's been a real privilege to go through them with Yogeshwar, and I don't know if you've had an opportunity to see some of Shrikant's diagrams. They've been really helpful in really capturing the idea of what the Bhagavad Gita is trying to communicate to all of us. And he's been able to actually combine that with the Gospel of John. It's really been remarkable. If you haven't seen those videos, just maybe go back and watch those videos for maybe 10 to 15 minutes and just to see. And it really captures the essence of what the Gita is getting to in a very short period of time. But we're going through chapter 10, verses 36 through 42. And then we'll be wrapping up chapter 10 on Friday evening. And that will be at Friday evening at 9 o'clock. And then this, I think we need to update this site for Saturday, because I think there are actually some different meetups. But we have our Asian philosophy meetup this weekend, and Jason, you'll be covering Confucius, Confucian metaphysics. And would you like to just talk about that briefly, and we'll
Yeah,
wrap up.
actually, it's a metaphysics, and I think only the words metaphysics in the Western world. Okay, probably everybody have a different idea of what is metaphysics, and then it's a chance to look at how does the ancient Chinese think about metaphysics, which doesn't have the term over there, and we call it metaphysics. So I think that's an interesting part, because everybody learning interested in philosophy will talk about metaphysics, but probably nobody can give a clear answer of what is metaphysics. What do you mean metaphysics? And then we will see how does Confucius or the Confucianist talking about metaphysics, and what do they mean on that? Why they talk about this? And then I think that's a very fundamental concept, over there. Yeah.
And he actually talks about the Tao in this particular.
Yeah, actually, it's related to Tao. It's
Yeah.
related to Tao. Yeah, and all you call the Book of Change. Okay. Yeah, I think you already read the text. But
Yeah, the transformation of things. Yes.
yeah, actually, that's I think that's another way to understand how different culture look at the moral standard, look at how the cosmology, and then how do we behave. So it's another different subject.
So I'm looking forward to it. And I will turn it over to my very best friend, Shrikant.
Hi. Thank you, Joe. Sorry, folks, I had to take a business call. So, Jason, I'm very excited about the Confucius meetups. Can we? Joe, did we have a chance to tell people about the Confucius meetups?
Not in great detail. So if you want to,
just a few minutes.
Sure.
So Jason, you have about five minutes or so. Five.
Yeah.
Okay. So what would you say, Jason? I mean, the way I see it, I don't know the Chinese culture, but the way I see it is that you can't really understand the Chinese culture just with Taoism. You really need to understand Confucianism. You can't really, Confucianism is a core work that you need to understand. And how would you compare? How would you place the Confucian analects compared to Dao De Jing? What would you say?
I think that they are talking about, they are facing the same. Okay, let's talk about the original text. Okay, they are facing the same situation. Okay, that means people are fighting, the social order is changing. Okay, and the Taoism, let's assume, okay, Dao De Jing is talking to the ruler, okay, say what to do on this. And the Confucius also talk about to the ruler. Basically, he's looking for job, so he's promoting his idea, what to do. And then you will see that's a very different concept in that one, even they try to resolve the same thing. So if you only read the Dao, I think the people in the Western are more interested in Dao De Jing, which because it's very different than what Western people thinking about. Okay, but again, the majority thinking is the Confucius thinking, and then which is more similar to the Western thinking, but Christian thinking, but it's different. So we are able to look at the original text and understand how they are different. You know, in
the way I would summarize it is that the Dao De Jing, its power is that it goes back. It is a invitation to go back to nature and discover kind of patterns in nature and use them to shape you and your social interaction. Whereas the Confucianism, and in that sense, it is very different than the Western way of thinking. Western, we don't go back to nature in the process. Whereas the Confucianism is more focused on the culture of saying, you know, how should society be? What is proprietary? What is a respectful way of dealing with things? So it's kind of more focused on culture, but there is a tinge of kind of nature that comes in all Chinese thought of kind of saying, you know, do things which are kind of consistent, which are natural, something like that. The tinge is there, but it's kind of more focused on culture. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I think I would put this way, you know, because both Confucius and Lao Tzu are looking back. They are backward looking. Okay, they are not forward thinking. They all look at the back. So Confucius look at the back. He's talking about 500 years ago in his time. Okay, because he said that the old time is a good time. That's a wonderful situation. And Lao Tzu think about 1,000 years back. Okay, that time even much better. Okay, because without civilization, that's even more wonderful. So I think that it put it in a high level. That's they are talking about. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Now, last question is about the format. So I think the translators, translations of Analects don't differ that much. So I don't think there is too much value to people reading their own translation. I think, you know, we should recommend several translations for people to read on their own before they come in, because that will help, right? So that's one thing. So if you have any recommendations of that, people can start acquiring the books and start getting them. So that's one thing. Second thing is that during the meetup itself, what do you think it would be the right format? What are your thoughts?
I think the current format may be right. Okay, so since Joe is agreed to host, and then I think that would be the good idea. You know, so I should not host. I think
I completely agree. I completely agree, because Joe is amazing at hosting.
Thank you.
And you are amazing at translating. Let's not switch the roles, okay? Joe, I have no confidence in his Mandarin. Okay.
Yeah, and then I think we will see, and just like you said, the multiple translation probably doesn't make sense, but we can have just like Bhagavad Gita, right? We have a few, like 2 or 3 people read it. We, you know, yeah, yes. Or we can have the people who already read it before. Talk about how do you think about that, right? You can. That's
I like the Bhagavad Gita idea, because that actually works. So
yeah, and then I probably can place the role as reading my translation and then have some spatial interpretation of it, and some of my understanding would be different than the translation. And I'm welcome to get idea on that.
Okay. So Jason, you're going to become Yogeshwar. You're going to become Yogeshwar.
Yogeshwar.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. I'm not going to sing though. I just
not singing. What is this? Okay. You can do.
Margarita can sing for us.
The Chinese is more visual, so you'll need to do interpretive dance instead of singing. That's
Okay.
going to be easy.
Let me find somebody who can sing.
I still would rather see Margarita dance than Jason dance.
Okay. So I think, Jason, that's a fantastic idea. So we'll have maybe 2 readings, two
Yeah,
different
probably
readings,
2 readings,
and then you.
Yeah, I think that I'm more interested, personal. I'm more interested in like for person who not just read, okay, just and also tell what do you learn or what do you understand on that, right?
Okay.
From your origin, without my opinion, because I'm really interested to see the original text. Again, because this one has been 2,500 years old text.
Right.
So many people in China or in Chinese culture, including Japan, Korean, they all have their own interpretation for a long time. So we would like to see how does its original look like, you know?
Sure. No. So I want to understand what you're saying. So are you saying that when people read the text in the beginning, the 2 texts, you want them to talk about what they understand by it?
Yeah. What they understand or what they don't understand, you know, why Confucius say that.
Sure.
Why, for example, they said
then what we can do.
Yeah. For example,
sorry, go on.
Yes, for example, like some words would be interesting, like Confucius said, the small man and the woman are difficult. Okay, what it means, right?
Got it.
Okay.
And how? So you would do parts of it, right? Each meetup, you would choose how much text to cover.
I think all the sequence are standardized. Okay, they're from book 1 to 19. We can use C text as a standard because I think all of them are the same. They have the 19 books and then 10,000. So probably we can cover half a book or 1/3 of book every time.
Sure.
Some are long, usually are short.
Okay.
Like Dao De Jing.
Sure.
Okay, usually are short. So
Sure.
yeah. Okay. So. Yeah, I think that'll be.
That's good. And then after you're done, then people will raise questions, comments.
Yeah,
just like
let's try not go over more than half book each time.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, or 1/3 each time. So yeah, so people have the time to discuss. And I believe during the process, I probably will learn a lot. Just
Perfect.
Like when I look at the first chapter. And now I have a totally different understanding. So in a way, that's my process of joining the re-educational camp. You know, this way.
Wonderful. So Joe, you got the format?
Yes, I think
Does it make sense to you?
It makes sense. Yes, I mean, I think seeing this in action will actually it'll be a little bit of trial and error.
Sure.
So I was just looking it up myself to see what translation, you know.
No, but you get the format, right? Basically, 2 people read and then give short comments on what they get from it, what their difficulties are. Then Jason reads, explains, does his commentary, just like Yogeshwar. So this is a new Yogeshwar. There must be a new name for Jason. That must be like the Indian name. So
we'll work on that.
Yeah, and next one, everybody's comments, and between 1/3 to 1/2 book. I think that's very good. I think it will just work.
Okay.
I feel pretty confident, and then you guys can move around. You can see whether 1/3 makes more sense or 1/2 makes more sense.
Okay, I think that's fantastic. Yeah, I mean,
all right, so we're all set. So we will do that. What we'll do is on 26th, we will do, and folks, we are not, the Tao is eternal and we are going to keep focusing on it one way or the other. So I'll come up with other things, like maybe once a month, I will do something on the Tao, either on a Saturday, Sunday, something like that. Okay. All right.
So are we going to meet up next week?
Meetup? Yes, next week. Yes, Jason. So next week, I was thinking of
20 section, right? 20 chapter.
Right. I think I don't know up to where did we go? We went up to 60 or 61, something like that.
Yeah, I think 60, something like this. Yeah.
Sure. So we'll finish all the 61 to 81. We get to listen to just you get to listen to other people read your translation. If maybe we can get Yogeshwar to sing it or somebody to sing it. and we'll go from there.
I vote for Joe singing it.
Joe singing it.
Yep.
Joe is
Yeah, no.
every time I ask him to sing, he refuses. I don't know why.
Yes, just for the benefit of the people that would be listening.
Okay.
I mean, it would
He's
be-
very considerate.
Yeah, believe
I
me,
think
this is
people
an
are
act.
voting for
This
you,
is an
Joe.
act of kindness. This is an act of kindness. So
No, his non-action of singing.
exactly, exactly. I'm practicing Wu Wei.
Jason saved you tonight, my friend.
Well, we've heard Margarita sing, so I say I vote for her. But yes,
Wonderful.
but yes, wonderful's right. Thank you. And yes, it's been quite a ride.
And Joe, thank you so much for doing this. It's
no.
really amazing.
No, thank you.
And all these three things, in parallel are just doing magic,
It is coming together.
They're building so much on each other. Like it's like my understanding of Gita goes up by just saying, okay, this is like the Tao. Immediately a whole bunch of context comes in. When we are now looking at the Gospel of John today or on Saturday, it's like you couldn't have done that without Bhagavad Gita and the Tao. So it's just huge. All right.
It's helped my stoicism too. I mean, it's just understanding, the experiencing the natural order of things versus, trying to understand the natural order of things. It's the distinction between those two has really been helpful for me.
And Jason, thank you so much. It's been just wonderful. And I really like your attitude. I really like the thing is that, I see India also has its tradition of learning that, all of us, if you, I don't know how much time you spent looking at, kind of attending. I think you've attended some Gita meetups. Yogeshwar is also like that. We're all trying to learn, and it really doesn't matter how much we know. We are all trying to learn and say, okay, what else can we learn? So, and it's wonderful. So thank you so much for being who you are.
Great. Yeah.
All right.
Great to
Take care.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Okay. Bye.